Shri Guru. Okay, we'll start out the second. Those who know can say, and then we'll start into the talk about Kirtan, introduction to Kirtan, introduction to Bhagavad Gita, correct?
Yes.
And not with translation. I just
Everybody speaks English.
Okay, very good. So, Vandanam slowly together. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha. Oh, here. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vikantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalita Shri Vijayanvitam Stram Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Purva Vista Supurakam Guru Ganaira Shisha Shambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Kamtanugam Govinda Vidam Udvalam Bharatanam Bhakyan Vitam Sundaram Vande Vishwam Gurum Chadivya Bhagavat Preno Hi Gita Pradam Devam Divyatanam Suchandavadanam Balakachalanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sare Gavaranam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Shri Siddham Tanidim Subhakyalasitam Sarasvatanam Varam Vande Ram Shubhadam Adhikesharanam Yasalam Shri Ram Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Vidito Gaurya Kurvan Vaye Bhadro Manriva Prabhata Gagane Yogora Sankirtanai Mayavadati Mingilo Dharagatan Udritya Jivaliman Krishna Prema Sudha Vigaham Asukam Pradat Prabhum Tangvaje Namo Guru Kishoraya Bhaktavaduta Murtaye Gaurangi Padma Vringaya Radha Bhava Nishevane Vande Bhakti Vinodam Shri Gaura Shakti Swarupakam Bhakti Shastra Yasam Rajam Radha Rasa Suranidhim Gauram Braja Shita Sheshaya Vaishnavir Vandya Vigraham Jagannatha Prabhum Vande Premanidhi Vrija Vaishnavam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Atmakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Namo Mahagaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauravise Namaha Tutopango Mama Mandam Materkati Masravasva Varambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyadvrindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Sri Madharanagara Sinhasanasto Sri Gandhava Srila Govinda Devo Prestarivi Sevya Manosmarami Sri Man Rasar Saramli Vamsi Vata Tatasita Karshan Venus Vanay Gopir Gopinath Priye Sunaha Vrindai Tulasirevai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavachay Namo Namaha Ato Natva Mantra Gurun Bhagavata Radam Vyasan Jagat Gurun Natva Tato Jaya Mudiraye Jaya Saparika Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhava Govinda Sunda Adha Padmanam Jayastu. So welcome to everybody, behind, to the right, to the front, to the left, and behind left also, in the middle. Hare Krishna. So this is for, as we know, our masters Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Rock Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. And today some introduction to Kirtan and Bhagavad Gita. So first we will begin with some Kirtan. We began just now with what's called Vandanam, some prayers of worship, appreciation and acknowledgement to the Lord and His devotees, making an auspicious environment. And Hari Kirtan, Sankirtan, congregational chanting, is a very great medicine. In fact, it is the medicine for our heart in this modern age. And so we begin with some Kirtan and then some introduction to both Kirtan and Bhagavad Gita. So maybe Sudarshan Prabhu would like to start something that we follow and you echo. Simple, yes. Panchatattva, something simple that you are accustomed to doing in hundreds and thousands of programs that you prepare.
Welcome everyone. What we're going to do is Kirtan, perform meditating on one mantra. If everyone is familiar with the term mantra, it's a Sanskrit term. And it's composed of two Sanskrit words, mana, which means mind, and trayate, which means to yoke or to control. So one of the most amazing things to realize in your spiritual journey is that you are not your mind. And that's one of the first realizations. But then the mind has to be directed as a tool by the deeper self. And one of the things that Krishna says in Gita is that for one who has control of his mind is his best friend. But for one who does not, then his mind can be his enemy. So mantra is actually a tool to control the mind. But to control the mind where? Mahamantra is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna means I'm going to direct myself to the basis of reality in a mood of service and love. Hara means the divine feminine, and in the vocative tense, or in other words, in calling out tense, Hara becomes Hare, and Krishna is the divine masculine. So the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is, Maha means great. It means the deepest mantra, the most effective mantra for controlling your mind toward the infinite purpose, the infinite play, the infinite dance that we're all meant to participate in. So we'll try to meditate on this mantra. I'll say the mantra one word at a time. We can all repeat it, and then we'll try to sing it with our heart. So the first word is Hare, and then everyone can say Hare.
Hare.
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare.
Hare.
Krishna.
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 Hare.
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 Rama.
Rama.
Rama means the pleasure potency. Rama means who is receiving the pleasure of reality. So a very deep conception. Hare.
Hare.
Rama.
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 Hare.
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 Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare.
Hare.
Krishna.
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 Hare.
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 Rama.
Rama.
Hare.
Hare.
Rama.
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 Hare.
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 We'll begin with Panchatattva mantra. Through the Panchatattva, this mantra has come into the world. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. So you had a little introduction to Kirtan, both theory and practice. So now a little introduction to Bhagavad Gita, a very small book, and without any by word, etc. Actually, it's a very small book. It's just 800 verses. And the Bhagavad Gita, the title is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan means the Supreme Lord, the greatest, and Gita or speech. So it's the song of God. And so here in a small way we've got some message for us of how, for where we are living, how to lead our life, and some goal of life. And that may be a big claim for a small, physically small book. But yet we've got such recommendation from the saints, the deepest thinking scholars, that to read the Bhagavad Gita will help us to make our life perfect. And in fact, not only help us, if we actually read Bhagavad Gita consistently, there are so many promises of the bright future that will come to us. So, Bhagavad Gita, throughout India, everybody's heard the name of Bhagavad Gita, just as like in the West, everyone's heard of the Bible. And probably Thailand too, the Bible. You just, oh, the Bible, yes, we have the Bible. But there is this book, the Bhagavad Gita, which everybody in India knows, and I think in Thailand, widespread knowledge of Gita. But just as having any holy scripture, it's not just, oh, we have a book, it's in the house. But what is the book telling us? What is coming from having that book? And so I can give a few words from the original translator of this edition, which is the edition by our Divine Master, Srila Bhakti Rockok Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, and published and presented by Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, his student, his best student, and the giver of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So, a few words of introduction. Well, it's from the preface of this book. Oh, no, it's the introduction, if I'm on the right part. Oh, yes. So, just a few words, but this is Srila Sridhar Maharaj's words. The great master, of whom we are all referring to getting our light in the modern age, coming through Srila Bhakti Rockok Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj in the generations after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the present day. And this introduction, Srila Guru Maharaj saying, generally Sri Gita, this book, Bhagavad Gita, is known as an excellent study of the science of religion. The language of Sri Gita is simple and sweet. It is in Sanskrit. Sanskrit, an ancient language it's told the gods speak Sanskrit, so it's a very ancient language. But Sanskrit can be very complicated, and Sanskrit can be very sweet. But Srila Guru Maharaj, and very simple. But here Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Maharaj is saying, the language of the Gita is simple and sweet. Its mood is grave, extensive, and radical. Its thought is succinct, very to the point. It is lucid and impartial. Lucid, very clear, and impartial. Not going for anybody else's wings. Fact, here is fact. And its logic is sound and natural. And now, maybe Surashanta will help me understand the next part. We always read it and we're always saying, Guru Maharaj saying, the eloquence, no problem, of the prologue, epilogue, exposition, review, analysis, synthesis, and delivery of Sri Gita is unprecedented and charming in the extreme. Or if, like me, you need, well, what's the summary of all these different departments? The presentation of Gita in all aspects is unprecedented and charming in the extreme. Then, next part, Sri Gita is activation for the lazy, courage for the fearful, hope for the hopeless, and new life for the dying. Inevitably, not someone's going to leave their body. Inevitably, we all have to die. But knowing what is our future, then we are getting new life from the Gita to take us in the right direction. So, new life for the dying. Sri Gita unifies and sustains all ranks, whether revolutionary, occultist, optimist, renunciationist, liberationist, or full-fledged theist. Then Srila Guru is saying, from the atheist of grossly crude vision to the most elevated saint, the essential concepts of all classes of philosophers are illustrated with clear and powerful logic. The devotees of the Lord, the Bhagavad Bhaktas, and persons on the paths of action, knowledge and yoga, that is karmis, jnanis and yogis, will each find the essence of their paths dealt with in a comprehensive and illuminating manner. And thus the book is highly esteemed by all. In other words, there's something in here for everybody. It's telling us how to improve the quality of our life. And after all, everybody wants to improve the quality of their life, to be upgraded and not degraded, to get good advice, not to be given bad advice, to have good association, not to go into bad association. And so many teachings are given in Gita, starting with the ABC of what is spiritual life, of who we are. Who are we?
The Jiva soul, the eternal servant of Krishna.
The Jiva soul, the eternal servant of Krishna. How do you know?
From this book.
I'm telling you.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2, and I think verse 11 was where I was choosing to start from. Yes, so actually, I have the same book, but in a bigger version here, so I'm going to cheat a little bit and read the bigger version. Govinda, Govinda. So, Bhakti Lalita did exercises for her eyes so that she could see better. She wore glasses since she was young. Then she said, I don't need to wear glasses anymore. And now you don't wear glasses at all, is it? Little bit. A little bit, yeah. But I found another way to cheat, that is, to make the writing very big and read it. Anyway, so in chapter 2 is called, the title of the book is, of the chapter is The Constitution of the Soul. And this chapter, which is chapter 2, so we're right at the beginning of the book, the first chapter sets the scene, what is taking place, and then in chapter 2 we're going to come to Krishna's beginning of his instruction to Arjuna. So, okay, this picture is very small, but there's Krishna instructing Arjuna about life, giving good advice. So a little bit small picture, but this is exactly this book, but a lot bigger. So, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Bhagavan Uvacha, the Lord said. What did the Lord say? I'll read you the Sanskrit first, verse by verse. Na tve aham jatu nasham. So, na tve vaham jatu nasham. Natvang aneme janadipaha. Na chaiva na bhavishyamaha save vayam ataha param. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yoganam jara tata dehantara prapti dhiras tatra na muyati. So we start here. You've heard a little bit of the sweet Sanskrit spoken by me. Very sorry, but we do our best. And actually we heard Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj say, his Gurudev said, actually I only know 2 people who can pronounce Sanskrit perfectly. Shantiman also there, because we mentioned this in Leela Govinda Ashram. Gurudev said, and Gurudev was actually very expert in Sanskrit, but humbly always referring to others. But he said, 2 people I know who can speak perfectly Sanskrit. Pakka pronunciation. And that one is Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. From there we get a perfect Sanskrit. And the second is the person, and maybe you know the name of that person, who sings now. He passed away, but they still use his recording during Durga Puja time, the beginning of Durga Puja, and all over Bengal, Dum Dum Park, a district of Calcutta where we had a temple, in India. There they play over the loudspeakers, and it's a very famous series of prayers to the Devas, but a series of prayers in Sanskrit. And that man, even when we don't know anything, it sounds very magical, the sound of the recitation of the Gita. Do you know his name? You remember that? No. But even not knowing Sanskrit, well, you can feel it. And by the way, after he passed away, then the whatever committees that decide what they're going to play during the Durga Puja all over Calcutta, then they withdrew. They had somebody else recite it because he's not like living anymore. So they think, oh, we have somebody else recite it. But all the people, everybody unanimously saying, oh, bring back the recorded version of him. So they brought that back, and Gurudev was happy about that. So in other words, Sanskrit, it has its special nuances, and when Gurudev, who knows so many people, says, I only know 2 people who pronounce perfectly Sanskrit, then may they forgive us for our work. Okay. So what did Krishna say? In translation, never was there a time when you, I, or all these kings who were present there did not exist. So never was there a time when you did not exist. It's not that 100 years ago you didn't live. And just as we exist at present, so have we existed in the past and shall continue to exist in the future. So when something happens to us, not if something happens to us and we leave our body, which is inevitable, we will still be living, we will still be experiencing, we will still be ourselves, who we are. So never was there a time when Krishna or everyone else did not exist, and in the future we will continue to exist. And then the second verse, which many of us did know fluently off by heart, Dehi nosmin yata dehe kaumarang yoganam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatta na munyati. That is, as the living being passes through the bodily changes of childhood, of the babies. Here we have our children section, the childhood. From childhood to youth to old age. Similarly, it attains another body at death. So the living being, we are the living being. As the living being passes through the bodily changes of childhood, youth, and old age, it similarly attains another body at death. The wise are not deluded by this. And for those of us who are a little grown up, we can remember when we were a child. And we can also think how foolish we were, and we can think how foolish we are now. But we know it was still me who was that child. And it was me who went to school. It was me who was in my middle life. And it's me in our later life. So the living entity, the person who is in the body, that is constant. But the body is changing. And so similarly, when this body must be left behind, when it becomes useless, when the mechanic cannot fix it anymore, when the doctor says, no, cannot live here anymore, then you leave from this body and you take another body. So here, this is some fairly basic understanding which in the East we find is fairly consistent, that people know when we die, the body dies, or dead body, that it is not the end, that the person is living somewhere. And so they are always doing prayers to the forefathers, offering to the forefathers, etc. Then matras bashashtu kanteya shitoshna shukha dukkha jaha agama payino nityas tang titikshasva bharata jamhina vyatayantyete purusham purushar shabha sama dukkha sukham dhiram so amrita vyaya kalpate. Okay, the two verses there, and that is verses 14 and 15, translation down the page. O son of Kunti, means Arjuna, Krishna speaking to Arjuna. The engagement of the senses with their objects produces the sensations of cold, heat, pleasure and pain. But these effects are temporary. They come and go. Therefore, O Bharat, another name for Arjuna, you must endure them. And we can all think something in our life where we've been extremely hot, but it passed by. Now it's just the memory in the past. Sometime in our life we've been extremely cold, but it passed by. And now we are not hot and not cold. We're in Thailand with air conditioning. But that will also pass by, and then we will get hot again. But everything here is temporary, this point. So we must tolerate heat, cold, happiness when we're very, very happy, but it also passes by when we're very, very unhappy, when we're a child and somebody steals our toy or something. It will pass by. So this is Krishna teaching, starting his teaching to Arjuna, and then still speaking to Arjuna. O noblest of men, the wise man who is equipoised, equal, in pleasure and pain, and undisturbed by sense experiences, is alone qualified for immortality. So we must become a little sober and realize that the body is not me. I'm changing bodies. Now this I identify myself with. Earlier we identified ourselves with a little body, later another body later on. And we must be separate and understand who we are, that we are not the body. And so we must tolerate all these things and be undisturbed by sense experience, heat, cold, happiness, distress, and all its many, many facets. And then, just a little more thinking things, Krishna says, of the asat, and sat, probably many of you who know sat, chit, ananda, in the yoga circles it is a very common expression, sat, chit, ananda. Eternal, sat is eternality, chit is consciousness, being awake, and anandam, joy. So eternal, awake, full joy, but not just joy. Anandam is very, very happy. So, so sat generally referred to as eternality. But now I lost my place because my country. Okay, sat means eternal, and asat means temporary. This is some of the basic Sanskrit that I know. Put an a in the front of something and it makes it the opposite. So, okay, so we stay on this, okay? So of the asat, that is destructible objects, such as the mutable, the changeable body, and associated phenomena, there is no eternal existence. And we know it sort of thing. When I first read Bhagavad Gita, it felt like somebody is pointing out to me things we already know, but nobody ever pointed it out to us before. And the body is temporary. I'm not the body. Heat is temporary. Cold is temporary. All the things we've heard so far. So, of the changeable body, the mutable body, and everything associated with it, there is no eternal existence. And of the Sat, the eternal object, the soul, the person, you who is listening and thinking, who is this crazy guy and what's he saying? But who is thinking, the conscious part of us, in living in a mundane body? That is eternal. Already Krishna told. The past existed and the future existed, as we are now, existing now in that sense. And of the Sat, eternal object, the soul, there is no what? There is no destruction or change. So the bodies change, but the person is the same. And the soul cannot be killed. Is indestructible. Just told. There is no destruction or change. And then Krishna says, the nature of each, the temporary body and the permanent, the soul, the person, you, the nature of each has been realized by the seers of the truth. Those who are awake to what is reality, they can see this, they clearly understand. Somebody's come. Somebody's come. Hare Krishna. Okay, happy surprise. Haribol. Jai, come on in. Please come on in, everybody. Not necessary to sit behind. And we can also make space, but there's plenty of space in here. Thailand is just beside India, and in India you can get another 50 people in this. Hare Krishna, Govinda, Govinda. Maybe I should move back a little bit. But there's plenty of space. Anyway, next verse was, so only 2 more verses. We're not going to read the whole Gita. Even if we did, it wouldn't take us very long. If we just read Gita without the Sanskrit. It's not a massive book that we have to be fearful to read. It is a book to read and to digest what we hear and put into practice. So anyway, first of all, we're getting knowledge. Krishna is giving knowledge about who we are and who we are not. We're not the body. Just see. So then the next verse, English. Know that the soul, the living entity, by which the entire body is pervaded, is indestructible. No one can destroy the imperishable soul. Then next verse. The soul is said to be eternal, indestructible, and immeasurable. You can't measure it. Even with modern science, they're trying to find many things. And even they call, I was told, that they are searching for the God particle inside the atoms that makes it all work. They know there must be something there. And they're trying to find the God particle and to measure God within an atom, like the tiniest of the tiny. But already this is told. Later on we'll get to know about this in Bhagavad Gita too, about Atma and Paramatma. So only these physical bodies are subject to destruction. Hare Krishna. Anyway, so this is the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the beginning of the directions, the instructions, the guidance given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. And our Gurudev Srila Bhaktisundara Govinda Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, he told, and his very later days present in the world directly with us, he said, I've been reading this one book, Bhagavad Gita, all my life. And every time I read this book, new light is coming to me. Because when we get some understanding, some initial understanding, and again we read Gita, we have what we initially learned and been sort of assimilating in our lives. We then read it again, and then we get the deeper meaning, and we will find that Bhagavad Gita itself, this one book, is a living guide. It is senior to us. It has got knowledge about life. And how is it got knowledge about life? Because it is the expression of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, explaining to Arjuna what is life. And Krishna comes to say, I made everything, including you, so I know who you are, I know what is life, I'm the creator. Samson made this tablet, and they give a little instruction manual. It's not 800 verses, thankfully, but it's very small writing. And they give an instruction manual to tell you how to use it. But Krishna, he made everything, the conscious and the material, the matter and the conscious, all planes. And he's giving some instruction of how to use our life. What is our life for and how to use it. So Gurudev told, by reading Gita every day, he said, I've been reading Gita constantly all my life, and still I find new light coming from the Gita. So what to speak of us? When we read Gita, we're starting to wake up to who we are to begin with, and then step by step to understand what should be our goal and how to achieve it, the changes we need to make in ourselves. So parents know, our parents knew, you are parents and you know that you want to bring up your children properly. You give them instruction, even from an early age. Do this, don't do that. Don't put your finger in the electric socket. You tell them something. You give guidance, because you don't want harm to come to them. But not only you don't want harm, you want positive good to come to them. And then you're giving good advice, good instruction. Well, Krishna's like our parent in this sense. He's giving good instruction. Don't put your finger in the electric socket. And you don't have to kind of go and prove it yourself. Oh no, I think I'll try. Because then what happens? Put your finger in, then go, and then cry back to mommy. I told you don't put your finger in the socket. So anyway, we may be now not exactly children body size, but certainly from our gurus, our grand master's perspective, no matter how old we are body-wise, he considered us all as children, and must always be careful to take good advice, to hear good advice and put it into practice. And really, this was like, again, physics, quantum difference between our masters and students, the student section. And we must always be careful to follow the guidance that's coming from Gita. So we've just given, I touched the beginning, which is waking us up, slapping us on the cheek, of you're not that body that you sit in front of the mirror every day, oh, I'm so beautiful, how can I be more beautiful? This body, we know it's temporary. But then again, as we mentioned, Krishna is pointing things out to us, waking us up to reality. And finally we come to reality, the beautiful. And Srila Guru Maharaj in the sermons books, he stresses that point, that the origin of everything is beauty and love. Not a big bang or an atom or anything else. I mean, it's wonderful, but that's kind of jumping from you're not the body to the origin of everything. But if we go through Gita, under proper guidance, not misinterpret it, but interpret it properly, delivered to us from those who live the Gita and practice it, means from our masters like this, then we come and get this conception also from Bhagavad Gita. So a little introduction to Bhagavad Gita, and then the second is some introduction to Kirtan. And we started with Kirtan, but Kirtan is sound, and Gita, the song of God, Bhagavad Gita, as we began, the song of God. So it's sound. Song is sound. In case you didn't know, song, it means sound, music, very sweet. And so when we read something, Guru Maharaj explained that we may be reading something, but it is subtle sound. We're reading, the cat sat beside the door. We are hearing, the cat sat beside the door, as we're reading something. So the book is like sound put down into black and white, as it were. And by sound, we are getting instruction. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. It's recorded in the book. We can again reproduce that sound more or less by reading the book. And of course, in the modern age, we've got the tape recorders and so many things. But we've got sound which is giving us guidance. And sound is how the current of reality is distributed in this world. If you have beautiful music, the mind goes in a beautiful place. If you have aggressive music, it goes in a bad place. If somebody speaks sweet words, you go to a good place. If somebody speaks bad words, you go into a bad place. So we can be affected by sound. And if there is transcendental sound, and that word transcendental can we become very familiar. Oh, transcendental sound, we say it very easily. But if the sound has its origin in the spiritual, the purely spiritual plane, the sat, eternal, chit, conscious, ananda, joyful plane, then that joyful sound originating from that plane can come here and change our heart with not just, oh, very beautiful, but more than that, taking us with guidance to our home, guided by that beauty, by that sweetness. So, to make a long story short, how did beauty and love, how does this come into being, the original cause of everything? Well, even within the universe, the original cause is thought to be sound. And it was the sound of Krishna's flute that entered the ear of Lord Brahma, and that through that one, carried on that wonderful wave, was the revelation of reality, the beautiful, the plane of reality, the beautiful. And that sound, the plane of Krishna's flute, as we have in Kali Yuga, the present day, this sound is coming to us in the form of Kirtan. And that is sound, sweet sound. And what Kirtan? The Kirtan, the sound given by Krishna himself as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Again, love, beauty, sweetness, completely combined. And he, Krishna, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, came to distribute the Yuga Dharma, which is Sankirtan. And Sankirtan, as we have had some introduction, is to chant something which will give us fulfillment in our heart. And the Maha Mantra is the mantra written in the scriptures, but drawn from the scripture by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and delivered to the world with love and affection, with accommodation, with everything included within it. And that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed. So with the Kirtan of the Maha Mantra, we are getting the love, beauty, sweetness, charm, wake up bell, wake up call, and everybody can do this activity. So Kirtan is transcendental singing, in fact, not mundane singing. And Kirtan is meant for the satisfaction of the Lord, and not just to us to be like hip-hop, Hare Krishna kind of thing. We want to be rather the opposite. We're doing for Krishna, and he likes us dance, whatever kind of dance we might like to do. But in other words, it is transcendental, and carried on that is beauty and love. So Kirtan, we've got some practical guidance with the books, and we've got the functional guidance of chanting. Chanting the Maha Mantra with drum and cymbals, chanting just by repeating, chanting as prayer, but everywhere Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, basically always chant the name of the Lord, and include that in everything you do, whether you are eating or sleeping or waking or anything else. then chant the name of the Lord, and you can chant silently or loudly, and best is to chant in Kirtan. So, you've heard my voice for too long, I've heard my voice for too long, so we'll come over to Sudarshan Prabhu, who will give us some more Kirtan and some more explanation and encouragement for everyone to chant. And Sudarshan Prabhu, unlike me, is born in a devotee family. He's been a devotee all his life. He knows all these things. And he's now a grandfather. Where's the grandson? Hiding, huh? Behind, going behind. Oh, more devotees coming from here.
No, Mark. Thank you so much. Very beautiful. I'm going to speak very, very briefly. Yoga is a very deep word. It's a Sanskrit word. Sometimes Gita is referred to as the yoga scripture. Because every chapter has a word and then yoga. Almost every chapter. Karma yoga, Dhyana yoga, Dhyana yoga, Karma sannyasa yoga, etc. So yoga, 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 yoga. What is yoga? Yoga comes from a verb in Sanskrit. The verb is yuj. Yuj means to connect. So just like the word connect can become connection, yuj becomes yoga. Yoga means connection. So as we practice yoga in whatever form, we have to understand that it has so many benefits. You know, if you're doing Ashtanga yoga or Hatha yoga, you're feeling so much movement of energy within your body, some health coming to you, some clarity within your mind, some peace. And ultimately, that practice is revealing something inside yourself that's wonderful. That you're a soul, as Krishna is saying. You don't ever die. You are the thing that's populating the body that you're in. And you have a connection with reality. And that connection with reality is yoga. And that connection has its stages. And ultimately what Krishna is revealing in Gita, that we're meant to connect in love with reality. And that means bhakti yoga. Bhakti means devotion, dedication, love. So the practice of all yoga ultimately should have as its basis bhakti yoga. And is leading toward bhakti yoga. That our very real true self that's eternal, not just populating this body, but always existing, has a relationship, an eternal relationship of love with the Lord. So as we practice yoga and as we literally live our life, to move in that direction is the movement of satisfaction and fulfillment. So one of the, as Maharaj was saying, one of our practices is Kirtan. And it's finding deep within ourselves that necessity. The fascinating thing about life is that no matter who we are or where we are, no matter how much stuff we've accumulated or not accumulated, we feel a gap that's sometimes very undefinable between where we are and where we want to be. And the seeking of that fulfillment is what drives us forward. And that fulfillment has its relationship with the infinite. Sometimes it's said, the need within us is infinite, and it can only be satisfied by the infinite. So it's a great adventure, a great journey, a high goal, an almost impossible goal when you put it in a certain way. But we're meant to connect with the infinite, and that's ultimately what the meaning of yoga is. But not just connect, but to have relationship. And you know, in Gita, yoga ultimately is leading to bhava, some type of mood of relationship. So the practice of this, we try in so many ways, but a fundamental practice is kirtan. To open our heart through some wonderful music and through some wonderful kirtans, some songs and some mantras given to us by great devotees, great yogis. So I will ask Raya or Lalita if you guys want to sing something for us and lead us in kirtan. Give me some rest. Huh?
Any song.
You want a song? Or?
Well, we have many devotees here. You can sing a song we all know. And Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Yeah, Bajura.
You guys follow Bajra Webala?
Some of it.
I know the first.
Vajahure mana Shri Nandana Abhaya Charanara Indore
And any questions from anyone? And we have lots who've already been introduced to Bhagavad Gita and introduced to Kirtan.
That was a lot to receive. You gave very much of it. Digest.
Here is a question for you. How to play the maranga like you do.
Definitely, that's the question for anybody. But like, what's the cause of like stress, maybe like mental stress, or what's the cause of like main problems about that? Stress, things like that. That we keep getting disturbed by our daily life activities. I don't know if you get my question.
Yeah.
What is the main cause of mental distress that we get disturbed in our daily life?
Yes.
No. Now we just introduced Sudarshan, who was being born in a devotee family and now a grandfather already, and I'm sure he may have at least seen others have mental stress and given good advice to them. Sudarshan, practical, very practical question. Good.
Well, no. I will try to answer this question. It's a very important question for all of us who are alive, because there's none of us who have not felt that. And it is an interesting thing. Why are we in a state of fear? In the Gita, Krishna identifies that there is one root cause of our disharmonious relationship with reality. In the Gita, it's called Raga Dvesha. Dvesha means two. It means we have this duality with which we view things, and we make judgments upon not just what's happening, but things that have happened and things that might happen in the future. We're constantly making this judgment, and Raga Dvesha, the two moods of our interaction, are what might be translated as apathy and sympathy, or like and dislike. And because we make that type of judgment, I like this thing, I don't like that thing. I like this thing, I don't like that thing. I like this thing, I don't like that thing. I like this thing that occurred, I don't like this thing that occurred. I want this thing to happen, I don't want this thing to happen. We're in this constant process of imposing our interest on reality. Incessant. And sometimes without even real conscious effort being put into it, we're constantly making this incessant judgment. But, there's a transformation in yoga from a viewpoint of reality we haven't really even thought about it very coherently. But the default viewpoint is I'm at the center and reality needs to do what I want. I'm at the center and it needs to align around what I've decided I want, which I may not even thought about that much. But I do have my likes and my dislikes. And because we're not fully in control of that reality, we feel stressed out. We have likes and we have dislikes, and we're not fully in control. This is a much bigger thing than even what we perceive. So we have to reset that relationship. That relationship is called bhukti in Sanskrit. So bhukti means exploitation. It means I need stuff. And reality, you need to bend around that. And that's like a fundamental disharmonious relationship. Right? That's a fundamental cause of stress. Right? So bhukti means exploitation. And very you might even say it's not natural, but it feels natural. It's without really thinking about it, we're doing this. We're constantly imposing that upon reality. And the process of transforming our relationship from bhukti to bhakti is yoga. From a feeling of demand upon reality to a feeling of giving to reality. And in a certain sense, we've never even entered into the process of introducing ourselves to the infinite. It's like if I just met you today, and I like kind of introduce myself, and I'm like, oh hi, how you doing? I need stuff. Right? That's like our relationship with reality. It's like, hi, how you doing? I need stuff. But if I say to you, hi, how are you doing? What can I do for you? That's a fundamentally different relationship. And we have to move into this motion of contribution and giving. And if we have a relationship with our environment, with reality, it should be one that's based on what can I do? How can I serve? How can I give? And with that kind of mood, you're not going to be stressed out very much because there's always something to do and something to serve. Right? And that's a very beautiful life. And we feel like if we give up our impositions, our very superficial likes and dislikes, that we won't exist as a person. But that's not true. You're going to exist so broadly and deeply within your relationship with reality. So, there's this fundamental problem that Krishna said. He's saying, Raga Dvesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Aduratidai. The whole delusion is based on Raga Dvesha. And that has to be seen within us. And kind of examine these things. Are we really imposing this? And is this really us? Or is that something that is superficial to who we really are? And there's 3 things Krishna says must be abandoned that are the kind of outcroppings of that. From Raga Dvesha comes what's called Vitaraga. Vitaraga means attachment. Now I'm really attached to something that exists or something that needs to exist. Right? Vitaraga. And then from Vitaraga comes Bhaya. Bhaya means fear. And the other thing that comes from Vitaraga is Krodha. Krodha means anger. So from this root cause of like and dislike comes attachment, comes fear, and comes anger. And that's the kind of the mental stairway downward that we embark upon, and that we have to be very careful within ourselves to identify and move in a different path. And that different path also has 3 components, which is austerity, charity, and sacrifice. Things Krishna says you should always do something. That means austerity. Give something. That means charity. And sacrifice means to give something of yourself, to love. To make a sacrifice for another. And that's the pathway toward love. And so we can Krishna very clearly, very simply gives like what I would say replaces oceans of psychology textbooks. A crazy amount of therapy. If you just can understand that this is what's causing all these disharmonies within yourself, and to start to look within and address those. There's not a point where your stress will not go away by doing something hard, giving, and doing some sacrifice. So, move toward that.
And all these statements are based on Bhagavad Gita. We are hearing those verses, as you're saying. This is all based on Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavad Gita is telling us also one of the basics just about Krishna is going to explain, is we all have to do something. We're not a stone, we can't just not exist. But do our duty selflessly. Always try to do something good without thinking, I'll only do it if I get paid, this kind of thing. So selfless activity is at the very basis of Gita. But then there's general selflessness, and then if we can get some tips of how to make that selflessness for the Lord, instead of just the general environment, or save the penguins, or save the whales, or save the whatever it is, mushrooms in the forest, whatever is going out of in the world, extinct like this. Instead of doing little bits of, you could say, good things, but doing the best thing, which is everything belongs to Krishna, reality the beautiful. We should learn how to do everything for Him selflessly. And then this is one of the very foundations of a successful life. And that way we won't be attached to the result. And hence this sequence where through attachment, and then we have this desire, when it doesn't get fulfilled, then we get all the troubles come inside. Any other questions? Please.
The Maha Mantra.
Yeah.
What is the magical thing about?
Yeah, also a good question. The magical thing is the spiritual good wishes from the Lord Himself, from up to down. It is His medicine for this age to cure us of our misconception and our suffering, which means birth, death, old age, disease, all of these things. And so it is, sometimes we can see an analogy like, now we know about how communication can take place through waves. Before the internet, you ever heard of a radio? You tune in the radio, and then on a certain wavelength, then you've got sound is transmitted, and then presently they discover, you can transmit also pictures. All the pictures previously, now I know it's digital mainly, but previously it was all coming through on waves. So we can understand that if we get the right wavelength, and we've got the wavelength which is coming with the intention of curing us, really cleansing our heart and filling it with love instead of hate, with all the good things instead of the bad things, then that will be, you could say, a magical mantra. And there are many mantras given in the Vedas for getting many things. That's why lots of Hindus, they do various yagyas and mantras, they chant mantras and things to get money, to get wife, to defeat their opponents, many things. But there is a Maha mantra, a great mantra, which includes anything that you could get from other mantras is there, but it is giving us that wavelength, that transmission on the wave of the beauty, sweetness and charm of the upper world, which then removes all the negative things of this lower world. So it is magical. And it is the medicine for this age, given in the Puranas with this wording: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it is not something invented in the modern age. Somebody thinks, we make sound and it will be like this. But it is coming from those who have seen the truth. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that we read just now, those who are seers of the truth, they're not bewildered by the change of the body. Those who really understand who we are, the nature of the soul. So those who know the truth, they have given us the Veda. Veda means know. Just have this. I'm telling you, this is the color of the sky on earth. You look up, the sky is blue. If you look down to the water's blue. If you look at the grass is green. We know it. They're telling you facts. We don't, here is blue, now we're going to analyze. Is that really blue? And we know it. And if you go to Mars, you can tell them. They may or may not believe you, but you've come from the earth. And you can tell, no, on our planet it's blue, I promise. I'm not sure about that. But we are getting that kind of very clear seers, the realization. No, they know the truth. They're coming to tell us. And so they are coming to tell us that this Maha Mantra is the medicine for this age. It's not that we can sit and be a yogi and meditate for hundreds of years, actually, in previous times. We cannot do big fire sacrifices. We cannot do many opulent things that were done previously. But in this age, the mantra, the sound connection with the Lord is all important. The emphasis is there. You can do meditation, you can do austerities, penances, many things. It will something to, you could say, help improve your quality of your life. But what is good, better, best and best, and the Maha Mantra, actually you use the nice word magical. Really it is magical, but not illusory magic, but something that there is a metal called the Chintamani, is it the Chintamani stone? What is it? You touch bell metal to what's it called? Sanatana? Huh? Chintamani. No, Sanatana Goswami had some kind of metal, and you touch another metal to it and it turns into gold.
Yes.
And that kind of, whoa, I want one of those kind of things. But those kind of magic things, miraculously things, did exist. Now, if anyone finds one, they'll be fabulously wealthy. But that kind of material thing does exist. But this is like that, but of the spiritual nature. So in the magical sense of amazing, then yes, it is amazing. And another thing is the why part. We do have to accept things from those who know. And just like medicine, we say like medicine is an analogy. We go to the doctor and we're in much pain, it's an emergency. Often you go to the hospital here in Bangkok, you go to the hospital, you've got an emergency ward, you've got somebody being admitted. In the afternoon they were fine, and then suddenly they had a stroke, whatever it may be, but anything can happen at any time. But they're submitting themselves to the doctor, and the doctor is expert in a particular field of injury or sickness that's happened, and they are giving a medicine, and the patient, they have some faith. Well, I'm in a proper hospital with a real doctor, and this medicine is going to work. He's not first in his pain and suffering and all these things, and he's first going to go and research whether what the doctor is giving is this medicine. Is he poisoning me or is he giving me medicine? He's got that natural faith. Oh, I'm here in the hospital, I need it, I need to be cured. We're given the medicine. When he takes it and follows the diet, etc., then the patient knows, oh, this medicine, here I am, I'm feeling it, I'm getting better. So this isn't theoretical. When we actually take the medicine and put into practice, we are the proof it is working. We individually, as we take the medicine, because we are the feeling unit, we can feel, yes, here is something very wonderful. And there are so many books from our masters, etc., by those who know the journey from where we are to where we want to go. And they also indicate various symptoms as we are progressing, so we can check, like lighthouses in the sea, in the ocean. One sea looks like another sea, etc. But the captains of the ship, they have lighthouses, and they recognize, oh, this lighthouse is flashing 3 times and then short flash or something, then it's on the map. Oh, when I get to that lighthouse and I'm proceeding, then presently they get to New York or wherever they're going to go to. So they get confirmation. So we also have it like this, by those who are the expert doctors, the expert givers of the medicine, and helping the recovery of the patient. And we have to admit we're in need of help. We don't know so many things, and even though at the beginning we said we are grown up, but we are like children inside. We need good guidance. We need a good, like Father, we said about the parents to the children. You always want to give the best guidance to the child and not let them get into danger. So this way, we all need guidance and help to come from the not knowing our future. What happens if I leave my body today? Where am I going to go? Have we made any plan, any thought about that? Or we're just living for the moment, for the, the best beer and whatever it is, just living, kind of ignoring the fact that these years are rushing past us and we're not doing anything constructive. So, we've got the good guidance, we have the medicine, and the other thing is that Mahaprabhu distributed this Maha Mantra for everybody. You don't have to be a saint first. It's for everybody, no matter what your habits, no matter anything else. Start to chant the Maha Mantra and you'll actually want to leave aside the negative things in your life rather than trying to be a perfect person, and then I'll start to take the medicine. The medicine is for curing us. So, yes, good question, and so please try and find out for yourself. Is it magical? They say it's magical. What is it Sridhar Maharaj told about a flyer that he got when he first was hearing about this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. When he was young, he got some leaflet or something, and it said on the leaflet, chant this mantra and your life will become sublime. And then he said, I got this leaflet and I read this and I thought, that's a very big claim. I said, if it doesn't work, they should be taken to court for false advertising. And so, anyway, he thought, okay, I'll chant this Maha Mantra. And so he chanted the Maha Mantra and and he started to repeat it, at home a little bit. And really his life changed, and still after 45 years or something, he's there happily going on. But that was recently he told that. I read this. I said, what? That's a big claim. I'm going to try. If it doesn't make my life sublime, I'm going to take him to court for false advertising. And he tried, and there still he is here. So.
Raj, can I say a little more?
You certainly can, and you may.
It's an interesting question, really, right? Because if we think about it, there's actually quite a few different mantras that we're sort of living within, right? One of the dangerous mantras that we're living is we're the heroic victim of our own circumstance, right? So we're living within some kind of looping thought, you could say. And the amazing thing about the East is that it has actually a very sophisticated cosmology of understanding not only the thing that we're kind of like viewing things through, right? Like we have these senses. So we start this process of breaking it down, where there's the things that you can perceive with your senses, known as the sense, right? And then if you're really like paying attention to these sense objects, like when you're going into science and things like that, where it's like you're perceiving 1% of the light spectrum, right? So if I see 2% of the light spectrum, I see 100% more. So we're living in a really small sliver of reality. And what the senses like to do is they interact with the objects, right? So like our tongue wants to eat like yummy things or, chatter words, if you will. We want to hear nice things. We want to see all the senses. What they do is desire, right? So there's lots of songs that go about that in the scriptures where they're like, I'm in the forest fire of desire, right? Because that's all they do is want. Like if you serve your senses all day for your whole life, they don't give you a vacation, okay? That's what they do, they desire. So first there's the sense objects, and then the next more subtle will be your senses themselves, which are desiring. And then when you move to the next layer more subtle, the senses, which are sort of all they do is want, they're going into this kind of computer system, right? And the computer system is your mind. And what's really wild about the East is they're saying you're not even exactly your mind, which is really strange. And like in the East, it's a common thought, and in the West, it's just kind of like, and I'm thinking that with my mind, and I'm not exactly my mind. Like it's getting kind of weird, you know. Like, and this thing is taking in all these desires, and then you start to kind of go like, dislike, right? And now we understand why we're so seduced by the endless scroll and all these things, because it appeals to our ego to kind of like things and dislike things. But we're not just like a like and dislike machine in the end, right? We're not just like, that's like the whole thing. I mean, either it's chaos and we're just a bunch of different, you know, chemicals that are firing off, and we're just like desire bots, and we can barely, where we're not just a desire bot. How do we know we're not just a desire bot? Because something inside of us, which is the next layer more subtle, can regulate, right? So you can say, hey, I did that thing, like, I really wanted it, I drank so much of it, and I feel very bad, right? So there's a regulator. That's what in Sanskrit, you're moving into buddhi, that word, it means like intelligence, maybe, and subuddhi is like auspicious intelligence, and you know, like maybe in the West we say conscience, like that very small voice that's inside of us that's like you'll never, like, you know, like there's even songs like, you know, when I was in the body of an elephant, I ate a forest and still I was hungry, right? Like, what is this strange hunger that permeates this existence that I'm in, right? Where, like, this gap that I'm existing within all the time. And so the East is so amazing because it has a very subtle culture of sound. And they're saying sound is so subtle that it has the ability to pierce through all of these layers that I'm inside of. And they say, actually, this world where we're just trying to like acquire and consume and control, which is basically the world of the senses, which is just like the world is there for me to devour and exploit, right? It's saying through that like lens, divine sound has the opportunity to kind of bypass all of these layers, right? So then this, even the word mantra, it's like embedded in there. Mantra comes from mana trayate. Mana is your mind. Trayate means to start to kind of like get a little focus on it, you could say. Like it means like to bind to some extent. Mantra in and of itself. And you're going, it's like, why would, there's a very famous verse in Bhagavad Gita that says, Udared atmanatmanam natmanam avashale. It means like your mind is your best friend or your worst enemy, right? And so now you're starting to interact with this thing. It's a tool, right? And that's why you can solve problems in your sleep, or you can set yourself to like, you know, it starts to do a little bit of its own work without being managed all the time. However, it can also do the inverse for you and start to cause you lots of troubles and carry you on like, right? So it's saying you're starting to understand that you're kind of in this like sophisticated machine, and that it's not what it seems. Not only that, because I'm only perceiving like a very small sliver of what's occurring, what even my world of desire is in a very small place, right? Because I'm only like, you know, just like in psychology, you just desire a little bit more than what you want, than what's around you and what people have around you. So like, you know, you're not going like, wow, I really wish I had a private jet. Maybe that's a little bit too hard, but like, you know, you want the next thing that's just above out of reach. And then we just run after these things, very much like the donkey going after a carrot, you know, sort of like mindlessly, and you're going, there's an idea of contemplative life, and then this divine sound that can actually bypass all of these different things and has some kind of relief inside. So they're saying Maha means great, and mantra means mana trayate, this great divine sound, right? This calling out, just as like if I call your name or if I call her name or so, it captures their attention a little bit. So we're trying to call out to the Lord, and we're hoping that some kind of divine sound can bypass some of these like ultra kind of base perceptions of what's occurring, right? Because we're not actually just this thing of flesh and blood, and this place that we exist in is certainly like what we perceive. This is like the smallest surface level of what's existing. So it's this amazing culture of sound actually that's coming from the East. So I hope maybe that is helpful to you. Thanks to you all.
Any other question? Okay, we'll do it for 10 or 15 minutes. Hare Krishna. Good to be surrounded by devotees and sincere seekers. Hey Govinda. Then we'll have some Kirtan. Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, sleeping. Really nice to be surrounded by devotees. 360 degrees.
Any particular...
Sri Krishna Prabhu is from Mauritius, a land of devotees. It's 50 kilometers tall, 50 kilometers wide, and has several Krishna conscious temples, and actually several places, and the whole island people are chanting. And they're big temple, big beautiful temple. So Sri representing them with his young family. He's here with his wife and a young child, but they're not here with us. They're at the Govinda farm. Hari Harai Nama Krishna. Everyone knows. Oh yes.
Yes, short and sweet.
Short and sweet. And Hare Krishna. Short and sweet.
Jaya Kunja Vihari
Jaya Rama
Jaya Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Jaya Kunja Vihari
Jaya
Jaya Gopi Jana Jaya Giridharadhari
Jaya Gopi Jana
Jaya
Hare
And why are we saying anything? We are just simply trying to reflect what has been given by our masters, their presentation of the scripture, and we need a master for everything. So it is not our invention, not our, oh, we are so great, we discovered this, I discovered this, I discovered this. So always all glories to our masters, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Rock Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, their master Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai, and their master, the Guru Parampara ki Jai, and I Vishwareni Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai, I Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Sri Hari Nama Sankirtan ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Acharya Vrinda ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
Please don't run away. We'll have some refreshments coming from that.
I'm charmed. In the meantime, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitana Bhavanebhyas Vaishnavi Namo Namaha. Done very, sitting very peacefully with your folded legs for 2 hours. Well done.